This time on Roadkill Garage, the Clevo Commando project finally begins.
And we make insane horsepower with our Ford Cleveland.
It is really stupid for a Jeep. Finally, the Clevo Commando begins. This is a 1972 Jeep Commando, and what we're gonna do is make it fast. Don't think of this as a Jeep episode, think of it as hot rodding, because we're gonna put a Ford Cleveland in the thing. You gotta be wondering at this point why we would be putting a Ford Cleveland in a Jeep Commando. Well, throw your mind back to the very first episode of Roadkill Garage, where Steve and I had a Cleveland and we did a really dirt cheap rebuild on it. But later on, we pulled it out of our 67 Cougar and installed a regular Windsor, so we had a Cleveland sitting around. And putting it in the Commando seemed like the only logical thing to do. But then the whole thing escalated and we decided to build a 406 stroker with TFS heads. This thing's gonna be awesome. It's gonna take us a few episodes to get this one done, but we're gonna kick it all off right now as we make it our own. And at the end, we'll be able to give you a horsepower number of exactly how brutal that Clevo's gonna be. All right, it finally begins, Dolchek.
I've been waiting for this, Freiberger.
I know.
You were non-committal.
So now I'm committed, but I have a plan. I want to build the Jeep around the tires. I want to figure out what tires are going to go on it first, because that'll determine the width of the axles, and that's going to determine the suspension and everything. So we're going to have to start cleaning it out and then hacking the fenders for tire clearance.
I think you already have a really good plan in mind.
Okay, good. Ready to heave it in?
Yeah. I'll steer, you push. It's your Jeep.
I'm pushing.
I'm pushing too.
It doesn't weigh much.
No, it rolls easy.
That's good. Man, this thing's narrower than most of the junk we roll in here by a lot.
I know.
I want it to be fast.
It's gonna have a Ford Clevo. It can't be anything but fast.
Really?
Those things make so much power.
You know what my actual goal is?
What?
Wheelies.
Wheelies?
I want wheelies, and I want it to run in the 10s on motor.
I never heard the wheelie thing.
Oh yeah.
I won't guarantee you wheelies. You'll impress me if you do big wheelies in this.
Oh, it's gonna do
Even
wheelies.
if you do little wheelies, I'll be impressed.
No, it's gonna do.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm liking the wheelie idea.
This Jeep would have come from the factory with an AMC 304 V8. The thing is, they made these Jeeps starting in 67 and 71, and they have a much shorter front clip. When AMC bought Jeep, they wanted to put their 232 and 258 inline six in it, so they needed more room. So they stretched the wheelbase a couple inches, this one's 104, and added the nose that looks sort of like a 72 Blazer, but the whole thing is small, narrow, light. Ooh, I'm just gonna gut this thing from everything it doesn't need.
This will come off.
Top's ready to go?
Yeah. I'm gonna bring in the forklift and rig this so I can pick it up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'm gonna handle the whole thing.
Okay.
Don't worry about a thing, Freiberger. I've got this. I've got the forklift positioned just about perfectly. I'm gonna rig some straps from the front, a couple from the back, and just gonna pull this thing right up and out of there.
Oh! Bolt? So there's a problem when you actually put the ratchet strap around the roll bar also?
Who did?
Let me think. You?
Oh, that was really dumb. You're gonna have to guide him, so be careful.
Okay, straight back. Looks like perfection. What do you think of the new look?
Man, it's just amazingly stylish and sleek.
It's pretty sporty,
Look
right?
at like the fast back on the tailgate.
Yeah. The thing that's hideous is this roll bar. Look how it's attached to the top of the wheel wells.
It looks like it was made for another car.
Look at all the booger welding down the back of it right here. I wonder if it had like a screen across it or something. Well, it's hideous, so that's the next thing I want gone.
It looks like water pipe to me.
Yeah, I think it is. So let's get rid of it. It's like water pipe. Trash. Wow, just getting this thing stripped down to goodness. That steering wheel's gross.
It's so light and airy now.
Are you gonna let me pressure wash it?
You must be psychic, because I was just thinking I'm going to suggest that Freiberger go out and pressure wash this right now.
Yeah, I should. Cow dog. Well, it came out pretty good. I mean, not show car quality, but all the grease is off of it, and that makes me happy. So Dulcich is out running, getting some bolts to put the Ford on the engine stand because they take weirdo 7/16 bolts. And I think after that, honestly, we're done for the day. Pretty tired. But tomorrow, more motivation when we put giant meats on this thing so I can get a look at the overall stance and stay motivated on the Clevo Commando. It's morning, so it's hacking time. I gotta put bigger tires on the Commando, and unfortunately stock sheet metal prevents that. I don't wanna lift this thing too much. I just wanna be able to cut it out for tire clearance and probably put some 33s on it. So what we're gonna do is use a Jeep TJ fender flare, front and rear, both sides, and put it right on like that, which is gonna require quite a bit of hacking, but it's gonna give a lot more tire room on this pooch.
They're almost a perfect fit, except for this part right here at the bottom that curves out. So I'm gonna cut that off with a regular desk wheel. I'll check the fit, and these will be bolted on in no time.
One of the cool things about these Jeepsters is they have a really ample rear wheel tub, but I don't want to cut into it when I'm cutting out here. I want to leave the stock inner tub. So what I'm going to do is measure up to that tub and then transfer the mark so that I know what my limit is for hacking so that I don't get into that part.
Oh man.
What?
We better not mess this up. We've got one shot at it.
Okay, just a second ago you were like, just hack it and don't worry.
I know.
It's done.
I don't think it improved the looks any, but once we put the fender flare on, it should look pretty good. It looks really good.
And I'll end up cutting this, I think, at an angle, right?
Yeah, matching the angle of the flare.
Yeah. Up here in the front, I'm gonna have to cut a whole lot more than just the flare covers because I gotta get rid of this factory flare so that the new one will sit flat. You realize if I screw this up, I'm gonna be all disheartened and like want to abandon the entire project. Wow, that kind of hurts. All right.
Oh man, that's looking really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be a handsome double by the time we get done with this.
Oddly, this side of the Jeep is not exactly the same as the other side. Who could have imagined? I like to stand back to get the eyeball, which is generally even more important than measuring. Looks pretty good. Dulcich, are you ready for our big moment?
Whoa!
Dun, dun, dun!
Oh man, those are beyond awesome. Look at those boggers.
It's a 33 by 14 on a 15 by 10 with 3 5/8 back spacing.
Wow.
The whole goal here is to get these tires on here and judge the fit of them so that we can then order a new rear end that won't break, because this Dana 44 is not long for this world with what we're planning on doing. Okay, get this 311050 out.
Did it fit?
Yep. Yeah, our off-road Challenger had 32s on it. 33s are like barely even aggressive. I have one more trick up my sleeve.
Really?
Yeah. Watch this.
Okay, I'm ready to be amazed.
Boom!
Wow.
Since this is going to be a multi-purpose vehicle, look at that drag slick.
Wow.
That's a 33 by 12 Hoosier.
Man,
also
that's
on the
a
same
serious
15 by
gumball.
10. I know. Okay, drop her down. Okay, that's pretty epic.
Let me see.
That's awesome. I've never had a slick that big in my life. That just proves the Commando will not be boring.
It's as though it's been crying out for those Hoosier slicks all its life. Look at that. It's just perfected the Commando.
Okay. And contact.
Yeah, you could tell it was gonna hit.
Yeah.
Where is it hitting?
Just leaf spring. Okay, so we need to measure the front axle wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface, and then we need to add an inch per side to that, add 2 inches overall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Now we can go build a Clevo.
Okay.
Moving on to the engine building part of the program. And Steve walks away right when I have to put it in the shop.
You know, those meats look really good rolling like that, Freiberger.
Yeah, how do they look from over there?
They look great. Sorry, I was posting to social media.
That was critical.
Yeah. Oh man, this thing rolls easy.
I know. Engine assembly time. So this is our 351 Cleveland block, and in typical Roadkill fashion, we never looked at this thing until this morning when we had to be filming. I bought it from a machine shop, sight unseen, and it showed up, and unfortunately it's got giant valve notches hand ground into the cylinder wall, which obviously someone did a long time ago, and then they bored it. So the drama is that we are concerned that those notches are gonna get into the top piston ring. So we've measured that really carefully, and it looks like we're gonna be okay. But before we go hog wild assembling this thing, we need to mock up one cylinder, and we're gonna measure what the piston deck height is, because if they're positive deck at all, we're gonna have trouble with that top ring. Look at that top ring, it's way down there.
We're fine. It clears, we're good.
Now we're ready to bang it together the right way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're doing here is we're setting the ring end gap, and I wanted around 24 to 26. This one is right there. This one I'm going to take to the ring filer, open it up about 6 thousandths, and it'll be ready to install. I'm using a hand crank ring filer. There's all kinds of motorized units with dial indicators and stuff like that, but for taking 2 or 3 thousandths or even 6 like this, I like just doing them by hand. This is a diamond wheel, and it really cuts pretty fast, so right about there, that's gonna be perfect. I can guarantee you, I give it a little wipe before it goes re-measured in the motor, and I'll move on to the next one.
After he's got them all ground down to the perfect gap, you have to deburr the end of the ring. Otherwise it'll tear up the ring groove. So that's why I've got these super Clark Kent magnifying glasses and this special deburring tool. We got all the rings gapped, and the next thing we have to do is hang the pistons on the rods, and that involves putting the piston pin in here and then using these, what are called cram locks, to hold the piston. There's a groove in there, or to hold the pin rather, and they're a nightmare.
This is going to be cram lock install, take 15.
Now you gotta press it in,
yep,
and not let it spring. Ah, boom.
Boom, just like that.
Yeah, it's a breeze.
You just cram the cram lock right into position. Now, we checked the piston to bore clearance and found that it was virtually perfect at 4.5 thousandths, which is what the manufacturer recommends.
What I'm doing down here is making sure that the connecting rod isn't twisted and hitting a counterweight, and I'm aiming it onto the crank journal so it doesn't gack.
Do I go full ramrod?
Oh yeah.
That was very painless and effective.
Now we only need to do it 7 more times. It's going to go perfectly.
I think so. It's tight. Ready?
Yep. Okay. Now I can pull it down into position. Right on there. Perfect.
60, what's the torque?
63.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
This thing turns over so easily.
It's those small section rings.
Now we get into some juicy bits, not that our stroker bottom end wasn't really good. I ordered a special Comp Cams solid roller camshaft. This grind is 252, 260 duration at 50 with 659 lift, and it's on a 108 lobe separation angle, so this thing is gonna be pretty stout. As a matter of fact, if you wanna order one for yourself, the lobe numbers are 2513F and 2517F.
It's gonna be a torquey beast with those specs.
Oh, I know, with that 108.
And it'll run good too.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be the no fun part of it for a little while as we put in the camshaft retaining plate and figure out how to make the damper work, which is going to be a challenge on the Cleveland to get the right length snout and spacers and stuff, timing chain, front cover, and then we'll get back to fun things like oil pans, cylinder heads, intake manifolds. Well, that cost a few hours, but Steve forced me to do the right thing and actually degree the cam, which was a good thing because if we had lined up the dots on the timing chain, it was actually retarded, which would have been lousy. And so we've advanced it, what I think is a little over advanced, like 10 degrees.
I think it's really good.
Yeah, he's saying it's going to be really good. It'll make a lot of torque. I'm worried that it's going to have a lot of cranking compression and it might detonate.
Cranking compression's power.
Cranking compression is power. You want to do oil pan or damper?
I want the pump.
Yeah.
And we have to remember to put the pickup in there.
Just go ahead and throw those lifters on the ground. It'll be okay.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
No.
Next thing I've been working on here is the windage tray and pickup and pan and clearance to the pan. The first thing I had to do is put the windage tray on with these special studs and then turn the engine over to make sure nothing is hitting the windage tray, which is a common problem for a stroker. And then the next thing I had to do is figure out the pickup, which hits the windage tray. So I've been modifying that so it kind of fits. And now I'm gonna have to make another hold down tab that I'm gonna weld on right here. And I checked the clearance from the oil pan to the pickup right here with this piece of clay. And it's got right about that much clearance, about a little more than a quarter, which is about perfect. There we go, much better. That is a BAM on windage tray. Ooh, I got squish. That's good. Ready for the big moment?
Flipping it over?
Flip it over.
Look at the black on this. It's like a baby grand. That ebony finish is just gleaming.
The most random things.
What do you mean? Doesn't it remind you?
No. Man, that is a deep pan.
I know.
I hope it's not a problem putting it in the Commando.
I'm really pretty proud of these heads, even though I didn't do a lick of work. This is a 225cc trick flow head, and the 225 refers to the volume of the intake port. Now, if you look in here really closely, the whole port is fully machined. And that's done on a CNC machine. That's why it's called a CNC port. You get the same treatment here on the exhaust port and in the chamber. So it's a really nice street or race head, and I think it'll make great power on our 406 Clevo.
Okay, we're gonna check piston to valve clearance, and so that involves putting on a cylinder head and rotating the valves through their natural process, and then they're gonna press into this clay, and when we take the head off, we'll be able to see exactly what's happening with P to V. Okay, there you go. We have miles of piston to valve clearance. You can see the impression right here where the valve is. So watch, he's gonna take a razor blade and split it in half so that he's got a perfect cross section, and then he can use a caliper and actually measure what we've got here. And you can see it, the exhaust did barely touch right here, see it? You could put a lot more chem in this thing.
Oh yeah.
Why aren't we? Next thing we're gonna do is put the harmonic balancer on it and then find top dead center so that we can put a timing pointer. But putting the balancer on is gonna be another moment here. The inside diameter of this is too small to go on the crank snout. It's supposed to be a press fit, but usually they're just a couple thou too tight and you have to hone them. Watch this. I can get over the initial part of the bore, but I keep going and it just hits solid. So, the right thing to do is to send this thing out to the machine shop and just get a little bit of a hone out there, but we're about to show you how to do the right thing the wrong way. Go Dulcich.
You might notice that I mounted the flap wheel in a heavy-duty drill. That's because there's going to be quite a bit of drag during this process, and an air die grinder really doesn't have the torque. I don't want to slip fit it, so I'm going to stop right there because it works faster than you might think.
The dog peed on the space blanket.
No way.
Yeah.
Who let the dogs in here? They're not shop dogs, they're yard dogs.
Another Dulcich homemade tool. We've got a long stud that's threaded into the crank snout, a nut on it over here, a giant socket pressing on our hub. And what I'm gonna do is hold the stud and just do this, and I'm threading the nut onto the stud, which is in turn going to press the damper hub onto the crank, and it is going like butter, about the perfect press fit. You really need to bottom your damper up against your timing gear, like I just did. Perfect. If you ever get yourself one of these ATI dampers, which you really should, there is one offset bolt hole where it bolts to the hub, and they've got that marked with a little peen right there, and then this says offset hole. I am gonna make sure that I've got it aligned. There we go. Wow, it's trick, Dulcich.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, I like the ATI super damper. There we go. Here's a weird thing about a Cleveland, which is it takes a special thermostat that needs to seal against this brass insert in the block, which has a hole in it. And if you don't use the right thermostat, or if you have no thermostat at all, then the water basically just moves in and out and doesn't circulate through the block, and it overheats really badly. The trick, if you want to run no thermostat or a regular one, is to take a little plug like this. The internet says use a penny, but a penny falls right through. So this is a plug off an electrical box, right?
Yeah, it's a knockout.
So we're just going to solder that in there and then drill a little air bleed hole in it.
That'll force the water through the block at all
Right.
times, right?
Yep. So this is a trick flow intake made specifically to match the cylinder heads. Okay, now we're good to go. That's as far as we're gonna be able to go here in the shop. We needed to order push rods, and we also needed to get the studs and guide plates, so that'll happen. When you see it on the dyno, that'll all be polished up. Valve covers, distributor, carburetor, and water pump will all happen in the dyno room. So that's it. We made it to West Tech Performance Center with our Clevo. This is where we shoot Engine Masters, where we test all of our stuff, and we're gonna find out today what kind of power that makes, but not without a little roadkill moment. Night before last, Steve and I are assembling this thing, and we go to pre-lube it, and all the oil goes up into the valve covers, and it turns out that I bought the wrong comp lifter. See how the oil hole is right here? That feeds directly from the Cleveland's lifter gallery and shoots all the oil up into the top end of the motor, way too much. And so we called Cam Research, because they're like Cleveland fans, and they had these lifters that have an oil hole in a different place with just a little bit of a weep groove right there in order to feed it, and that restricts the oil so that it doesn't pump all into the top end and fix that classic Cleveland problem without having to bush lifter bores or put restrictors in the main saddles or anything like that. So that's all dialed in now, and we're ready to slap it back together and make some power. Slap it on there. Oh, wow, that was a mess.
No way.
Oh,
What?
oh, not even close.
So the Clevo's pretty famous for making a lot of horsepower, but I just can't make a prediction. I don't know what this thing's gonna do. Freiburger?
It's gotta make 600.
Oh.
That's all I know.
If it doesn't, I'm gonna feel like a chump.
Me too. Dulcich is freaked out.
I know.
Dulcich is always all freaked out when we fire up one of our engines for the first time.
I know.
Oil pressure is perfect. 65 pounds, 66, 67, 68.
It's alive.
It's alive. Here we go.
Oh, yeah! Whoa!
We're walking away with our Cleveland making 658 horsepower at 7,400 RPM and 551 pound-feet at, what is it, 5,400? So the thing is, it's gonna take me a long time now to save up enough money to put this thing all together in the Jeep with the transmission and the transfer case and the axles, but you will see it when we finally get it done on Roadkill Garage.
Yeah. Win.
Win.
What it says is no chump.
No chump.
Yeah.
Oh, this thing is gonna be so wicked in that Jeep. It's gonna be ridiculous.
It's pretty wicked just right here on the dyno.
This thing makes 100 more horsepower than the engine in the Crusher Camaro.
100, yeah. I know.